If you're not taking some time to yourself, that's not helpful. So definitely take care of yourself. The business will do much better if you feel good.
So today we have with us Shreya Pattar, who is also known as the LinkedIn girl. So we'll be diving deeper into understanding how LinkedIn can be used for entrepreneurs, how they can leverage it in order to, create the maximum impact. So Shreya, could you just give us a brief about yourself and your journey?
Sure, yeah. So I've been in Dubai for about 2.5 years now. I run a LinkedIn branding agency that's mainly like on the business side. That's what I work on. But apart from that, I do a lot of things that correlate with LinkedIn or with online business and brand building. So through my Instagram, for example, I teach others how they can start freelancing or how they can start their online business. I also teach, things like communication skills, public speaking. I teach people how to essentially make a mark in this space. And on the LinkedIn side, I was one of the first content creators per se on LinkedIn. I'm talking 6 years ago when personal branding was not known on LinkedIn. People were only sharing their job certificates and or like certifications and looking for jobs. That's what was going on. So I started creating content back then. And my first post on LinkedIn went viral. I had 1.5 million views on the post. And because of that, I got a lot of attention towards my writing style, towards how I can create something not only for myself, but for others as well. And then basically people started reaching out saying, like, whatever you did, it was so good. We really liked it. Can you do the same for us? And that's how I started with initially as a solopreneur and then eventually building a team and running a business. And right now, I think among a lot of different things, I also like, of course, I like doing podcasts. I like having such conversations. And yeah, thank you for having me here.
Lovely. So finding a passion is one thing,
Mhm.
okay, and making it as a career is another, okay. How do you validate that your passion is something worth pursuing as a career?
I think that not everything that you're passionate about has to become a career. And on the flip side, you can have a career in something that you're not passionate about, but it still works because it works, right? Because at the end of the day, having a career is, yes, like you want to enjoy as much of the process as possible. But at the same time, there are certain things that a career does. For example, financial stability, especially if you're like when you're young, I think you have that potential to take more risks. You don't have more people like dependent on you, etc. So I think choosing a career purely on passion may not be the right move. It's something that if you're young, you can definitely test out. I think that's the advantage of being young. So if somebody is in university or they're just graduated, mid early 20s, I think that's a very good time to just give it your best shot and see before you evaluate, before you overthink it, before you kind of waste so much time in will it work, will it not work, etc. I think it's better to just get started. And if there is something like if you're already in a career where you realize that okay, I'm not passionate about this, I think adding a side hustle really helps as opposed to entirely making a shift in your job, right? So I don't think it is a lot about like passion versus career, but maybe more of your priorities. How much risk are you willing to take, and how much time do you have before you think, okay, now I need to be serious. Let's put it that way.
Makes sense,
Yeah.
yeah. So LinkedIn has changed over time, right?
Yeah.
The way it used to be when you started, it used to be more of like a platform for people to apply for jobs, connect with people, and so on. Okay,
Yeah.
and eventually it has transformed over years. Now it's
Yeah.
more of like people share their thoughts and people connect, and there's so much happening over there,
Yeah.
right? And recently, I think they have launched it already. LinkedIn is promoting the short form video content
Yes.
format, right? So
Yes.
I've been seeing a lot of people talking about that as well.
Yes.
So for someone who is just starting out, okay,
Mhm.
let's say want to start something of their own, what
Yeah.
are some of the steps they need to take on LinkedIn in order to start with the thing? Let's
Yeah.
get the ball rolling. That's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. What are some of the things they
Yeah.
should be doing?
No, that's a good point, especially considering how many different features LinkedIn has. Last week, I saw that LinkedIn has introduced something called as LinkedIn Games. So now they have puzzles on the app. And it was extremely interesting as to why would people use LinkedIn for that. But they have presented in a way that this is a good mental challenge to take, or is just something to help you prepare for the work day, something like that. So they've given it a spin. So my point is that LinkedIn has so many things which can make it a bit distracting, and you can try to do like a little bit of everything, but the main thing you need to do is essentially show up in terms of content. That's the only thing you need to focus on. So as long as your profile is updated, people have clarity when they look at your profile as to what you do and how you can help them. Both the combination of what you're doing plus what value can you add to somebody who is looking at your profile or who wants to maybe connect with you. As long as that is in place, then the next thing you need to do is create content. How you create content doesn't really matter. You can do video content if you have time for it, if you're comfortable on camera, if you have, let's say, an editor or you're willing to edit your own content, sure, go for video. If you don't feel comfortable, don't use that as an excuse thinking that only video is working on LinkedIn, nothing else will work. No, you show up in text format. You want to put some sort of clips, you want to make carousels, you want to design infographics, or you want to write a post, totally fine. So I would say it's more about showing up, like remove all the distractions and everything that people say about the algorithm, what's trending, what's popular, what's working, doesn't matter. So I would say at least 3 times a week, try to post, if not three, two minimum, and just be active on LinkedIn and see how people are responding to the content you're creating. So that'll help you kind of improve upon that as in how you post more content as well.
Okay, okay. So you mentioned about creating content, right? Let's say for someone who has a busy schedule and so on, okay, what are some of the ways that they can do it in a way so that it doesn't come along on their way during the day or work and so on, basically like content batching,
Right.
right? So when you do that, can you tell the steps how content batching is done?
I mean, the easiest solution is when people reach out to us and we just do that for them so they don't have to think about creating content. But of course, if you're not ready to invest and you want to do it yourself, the best way would be that throughout the week, whatever is happening, just add a voice note maybe on your phone, or add a pointer in your notepad or in your notes app, and just jot down the different things you've done or the different things that you would like to talk about on LinkedIn. Any ideas that come up that you think would be helpful for someone who reads your content, just jot everything down. And maybe over the weekend, take out 1 hour, go through all those notes, and create as many posts as you can in 1 hour. So you're not stuck in that 1 hour with also having to ideate and create, but you've just collected all these ideas, which means you've also maybe had time to think about them. Because I think the most challenging part of writing is not actually doing the writing, it's knowing what to write and how to write it. So when we tend to have some time to think about the topics that we have in mind, how we want to present that story, what we want to say, we tend to have that going on in our head all through the week. So maybe you're just doing something, you're flipping through a magazine, or you're driving, and you can just start thinking about all these things, right? So actively have some time to think about what do I want to share and how do I want to present it, note it down. And then, like I said, every weekend, just take out 1 hour. And then LinkedIn also has a scheduling option now, and you don't need any additional tools to do that. You can do that on the LinkedIn app. So once you've created your content, schedule them for the entire week, whatever 2 or 3 posts you have, and you can do that on a weekly basis. So you have this 1 hour every Saturday morning that you've committed, and then you probably don't even need to see LinkedIn except maybe responding to some comments and messages that you get.
Interesting. We do the same approach, like when it comes to social media, right? But just I wanted to pick your mind on how we do it when it comes to for individuals. So, how important do you think is thought leadership content for an entrepreneur when they're just starting out?
When you're starting out, I think it can be more of a built in public sort of content as opposed to thought leadership. If you're young, if you're just starting out, you probably don't have that sort of experience and expertise to talk about things boldly, or you may not be in a position where this would add much value to you. Because when you teach something, essentially, when you teach something, you attract people who want to be where you are right now. So do you want that, or do you want more of customers, clients? Do you want more investors, business opportunities to come in, or more on the education side? That's something you have to consider. So I think building in public is a great way, for example, which eventually leads to thought leadership, because you're just showing the process. People are seeing all your hard work. People are seeing the success day by day, week by week, month by month. And then eventually, yes, you build that sort of thought leadership in your industry. Some things you can talk about, for example, if you're already, like, if you're starting out, could be how you're setting up your company, how you are entering the space, how you're doing like your market research, why this is important to you, your vision, your company culture that you're building out, things like that. And if you're more established, then it can be looking back and kind of talking about all the steps you've taken so far, along with the achievements. So any conferences you're speaking at or any awards you won, those are good ways to kind of put yourself out there to build that sort of thought leadership in the space.
Just curious to know,
Yeah.
what was the reason that you moved to Dubai?
I moved to Dubai because it was the easiest place to move to. I finished my college, I studied abroad, I wanted to live abroad, and Dubai at the time was rolling out a freelancer visa. So it just made it very easy to move here as opposed to any other country. And my family's still in India, so it's very close by for me to just take a quick flight and be home with them or for them to visit me. So that, and of course, the classic that there's no income tax or there's very marginal taxes right now on corporate businesses. Lifestyle is very good. Weather, for the most part, is very good, and I prefer warm places as opposed to where I studied in Dublin. So I prefer this, and I think overall, just um, there's a lot of comfort in the life here as an option. Like if you want that, you can have that kind of thing. And the most important would be the people, because I think everyone comes here to Dubai to build something out of themselves and to build it fast. So it's a very fast paced city. I'm from Mumbai. I prefer that fast paced city. And I think there's just a lot of inspiring people, no matter where they are, what they're doing, or when they move to Dubai. I think everyone has a very interesting story to tell. So it's an inspiring place to be in.
Interesting. So when starting out, right? When just starting out,
Yeah.
let's say someone who has begun their journey in their own native country,
Yeah.
okay, and they want to expand over here, okay. So what would be some steps that, like, as an entrepreneur, you would take in order to establish yourself, on the go, and then come totally over here? Like,
Yeah.
how did you do it? And would love to pick your mind.
I didn't know anything when I moved to Dubai. I didn't end up going for the freelancer visa because it was too short term. I wanted to be here longer and see how I fit into this place. So I didn't do that. I ended up setting up a business here, starting my business here, and I didn't know anything. So it was just mainly going through references, contacts, asking people if they knew someone who could help me move to Dubai, kind of thing. And eventually that's how it worked out. So I would say Dubai is very strict with its rules, and the rules change a lot in a good way, but also in a bit of a concerning way, because you have to always be aware of what the changes are so that you can comply with them. So it's best to find somebody reliable and somebody who's done this before to do it for you as opposed to try to do everything yourself. I think setting up is pretty straightforward in terms of the processes or what's required. But I think just have that sort of, like, if you plan to move to Dubai, have that sort of preparation mentally. That is going to be very challenging initially, especially because if you have your own business and if you're not set up in a physical office, it can be difficult to get to know more people. It can be difficult to, let's say, network or just make friends or just get crack into that ecosystem of entrepreneurs. So you have to really be aware of, okay, what's going on in Dubai, events, conferences, networking events, things like that. That would be a preparation tip I would give, because I struggled with that when I moved here. But yeah, I think setting up, you should really find someone who knows what they're doing.
Interesting. Even for me, when I moved, it was the same. Like, uh, like you have your own circle back in your country, like
Yeah.
people whom you look up to for mentorship and all of that. When you move to another country, it gets a little difficult. compared to how it is over there. Because again, like the culture, the way things are, and all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So the best way, again, picking up on what you said, is that networking has helped me also. Like, there's so many events happening over here. So when
Yeah.
you go out there, talk to people, and then you also get an idea where you stand basically. Like
Yeah.
the market is like this, people are doing this. Because most of them, when they start out, they have an idea in their head that this is something that I'm gonna build.
Yeah.
Right. And unless and until they go into the market, talk to people, and see, they won't get it. It's just there in their head, right?
Yeah.
Like a bubble sort of thing. So networking really helps. Can you give like 5 different hacks for entrepreneurs to get the ball rolling?
5 different hacks. I don't think there's a hack, but okay. So the first thing is that whatever notion you have about entrepreneurship, I think a lot of people have this through Instagram content, and it seems very glamorous. It seems like
Especially
a podcast every day or something. That's not how it is.
Especially when you are in Dubai. Again.
Especially when you're in Dubai, yeah. So it's not like that at all. A part of it is fun and glamorous or whatever in some way, let's say. But most of it is just, sitting with your laptop for most of your, week and just spending time there, getting things done. So be prepared that it's not all like glamour, basically, it's not easy. The second thing is that if you're an entrepreneur, it's very, very easy to be secluded because it's difficult to find other entrepreneurs, first of all. And it's then because of that, it's difficult to find people who can actually relate to what you're going through. So it can get a very lonely space to be in. Even if you are in an office setting, you can still feel that way, especially if you're running the company. So I would say that have a group of entrepreneurs that you regularly connect with, somebody to rely on, somebody to share your position or your thoughts with, so that you have that comfort zone, and you also have somebody to just give you proper advice that an entrepreneur needs, not just as a career person but as an entrepreneur, right? So I think finding the right people who are a bit like you and who have problems similar to you, that is actually very, very helpful, and we don't realize this until we get in a position where we're like, oh wow, this could have helped if I just had this 5 years ago, right? The third thing would be that as an entrepreneur, you should have your list of daily non negotiables. That could be working in the business or on the business. So, initially, the idea of working in the business is when you're basically serving clients, maybe you're working on fulfillment, you're working on training the team, everything that helps you strengthen what you have right now. Working on the business is more about scaling the business. So how do you, let's say, add more clients? How do you hire more people? What is the next step you need to take for a new product or service launch? Things like that. What will help you expand? So a lot of entrepreneurs also, they get so tied into just working in the business that they're not able to do anything in terms of growth. So they're just serving the same clients over and over again, or they're stuck in a rut. And anybody who's an entrepreneur, they do it for the excitement. I think they want that challenge. When you get stuck in a rut, it gets not only boring, it gets very demotivating. So pull yourself out of that. And that's why I said have a daily list of non-negotiables, something that you have to do every single day, not only to work in the business, but also on the business. So you're not stuck in the same rut.
Any tip in order to pull yourself out of that rut?
Hiring somebody who can take care of the team could be an example. Hiring somebody who's more client facing and can take care of your clients could be an example. So for me, that was hiring a team lead. And as soon as I did that, and we started working on some systems that this team lead could essentially take over a lot of team responsibilities or client responsibilities, I could then focus more on lead generation, sales, and growth that way. So whatever is taking out most of your time, most draining, I would say you can identify those tasks and then see how much of that can you outsource so that you can focus on the other aspects of it. So yeah, maybe making the right hire. It could be like a CEO, it could be a CEO, somebody like that could really help your business. 5 things is a lot, but okay. Fourth, I would say take care of yourself, because if you're not healthy mentally and physically, then this entire bunch of people, your team, your clients, your own family, who all rely on you, they also get put in a tough spot. And as in how you scale, your responsibilities always increase. You don't realize the pressure of those responsibilities until you have them, because then it's about paying salaries. It's about you not just taking care of your family, but you're responsible for someone else's family as well. And there are so many people in a team, right? So it does add a lot of pressure and responsibility that you have to take. And it's good. I think it's good to have responsibility. But if you don't take care of yourself, like if you're just working 20 hours a day, sleeping for 4, that's not helpful. If you're not eating well, that's not helpful. If you're not taking some time to yourself, that's not helpful. So definitely take care of yourself. The business will do much better if you feel good. And the final thing I think I would say
Are
is,
there any tips for someone, tips for well-being of entrepreneur that you use for yourself?
um,
Because I see you putting stories on Instagram. Did you work out today?
yeah. So definitely working out in any capacity, at least 3 times a week would be good. Taking a walk is good. Any sort of activity, even in terms of like a sport, it could be playing badminton, it could be swimming, it could be running, anything that you enjoy. It could even be dancing. If you enjoy those things, like engage yourself in some sort of physical activity, something that essentially helps you shut your brain off, because that's what, for me, that's what happens when I work out or when I was doing my kickboxing classes. I couldn't think of anything because I was so focused, and if I wasn't, then I was going to injure myself in some way. So that was a very helpful thing for me, because as an entrepreneur, even in your sleep, you're thinking of things that you shouldn't be thinking about in that moment, right? So you're not truly resting. So I think having something that pushes you physically and like challenges you in that way really helps. um, Eat well, as less packaged food as possible, as less sugar as possible. Don't just keep your, keep your body in this state of fluctuations. It also helps with mood management. Otherwise, you take things out on your team,
Makes
on
sense. Yeah.
people that you shouldn't be taking them out on. And sleep well. If you sleep properly, and even the time that you sleep, it's not just hours. I think a lot of people think as long as I sleep 8 hours, it's okay. It's also the time, like waking up when the sun rises or when the sun is out and sleeping at a decent hour. That's really important for you, because then your brain can function properly. You feel well rested. And again, you're just ready to take on a new day. Otherwise, you're lethargic. Again, you're irritated at people. Doesn't help.
Understood.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that would be on the health front. And tying into that would be my fifth point, that don't stop your life just because you're building a business. I think a lot of people tend to do that. Like, yeah, I'm in my hustle and grind mode and I'm just not doing anything else. I'm just going to focus on the business. The business is honestly not going to go anywhere. Yes, you might scale very quickly and all of that, but then this will never stop. You will never have time for yourself. It'll you will never have more time to spend with your family. It won't change that way. So if you can't do something now, like you think, I don't have time for this, when you build a bigger business, you're not going to have more time. It's only going to become more difficult. So I think don't stop your life in terms of just being cocooned in your laptop or Zoom screen the whole day. Don't do that. Live your life like a normal person does, and have things that you enjoy. Keep doing them, so that you feel normal. Yeah.
The hustle mode and the energy that you have in the initial days of your career.
Yeah.
Let's say you are 25 or something.
Yeah.
Just curious to know, like, does that reduce over time? Like, the moment you reach your 30, 35, 40 and all of that, does that reduce?
I don't know about age, but I know that I've been doing this for 6 years.
Okay.
And that is quite a long time, but it's also not a long time. Like in the larger scheme of things, it's not a long time at all. But nowadays, again, based on internet businesses, based on the portrayal of businesses on social media, everything looks so easy. And it's extremely easy to compare yourself to someone who seemingly is not putting in anywhere close to the same amount of work as you are, but is doing, like, again, seemingly 100 times better than you are, right? So this is very common now. People talk about how somebody has so many years of college and this and that they've gone through, but now there's somebody who just started on Instagram a year ago and is making much more money. Of course, it's a skewed idea because that's not how hard work is measured, based on how much input you've put. But I think that comparing thing can become very easy to attain, which is how your morale can go down. because you feel like, okay, I've done so much, but what has it amounted to compared to someone else? I think that becomes very easy on social media. I had that for like a week or so, in a very extreme manner, and then it stopped. And once it went away for good. Like it just went away and it never came back. And recently, and this is something that I've tweeted about quite a bit also, that like after a point, you look back and you think, okay, it's been 6 years. What have you built? Right. And this is actually why I said don't stop your life, because I did that. In a lot of ways, I was so focused on my business and I had a lot of fun doing that. So of course, it was my decision, my choice, etc. I had a lot of fun, but I left a lot of other things that either I wasn't ready for or that I thought I didn't want. But looking back, I would have really liked to have like just be more out there, be more social, have more of just being me, I guess, as opposed to just being me as an entrepreneur kind of thing. Um, so all that I can only see in hindsight that, wow, it's been 6 years, right? And like I said, the business is not really going anywhere. Like you will always continue to have something to build upon. That's why you need to keep adding some memories. I didn't travel for the longest time. I started traveling this year and I love to travel. I love to be in different countries, see different places. This year I've been to 4 so far because I chose to do that. And I'm like, this revenue goal that I have in mind before I start to travel, or this sort of thing, this arbitrary thing that I've put my entire life on hold for, is not making sense. It doesn't work that way. I hit the revenue goal and then I was just struggling even more because I was more involved in the business and then I had no time to take a break. So I was like, okay, it's just happening now or it's not. So yeah, life is short and it's limited and the amount of time you have is limited. So that's why I said, like, don't put your life on hold. I think this is the only thing that can pull your morale down in some way, where you realize that it's actually been a long time and it's still going to be a much, much, much longer journey. So might as well just, do everything you want as opposed to just one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's there on social media, right? Everywhere. Like, this is how you do it and all of that. So
Yeah.
most of the most of the time we get into that zone, okay, maybe this is how you do it. And you don't see the things that are happening behind the
Yeah.
scenes. Yeah. So okay. When it comes to like starting out, okay, a business idea or whatever that is, how important do you feel market research is?
It is very important, especially if you're launching a product, I would say, because a product requires upfront cost. Service doesn't really require upfront cost. Your upfront cost
Would be your time?
would be your time.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's only your time. And if you're somebody starting from scratch, your time has great potential, but monetarily very little value at this point, right? So you can give as much of time as possible and you can make things happen. But market research is important in the sense that you can understand the potential of something. So a lot of people, like when it comes to freelancing, I always give this example that a lot of people start out with, let's say, writing SOPs for students for their colleges, or they create resumes for job seekers. How much can somebody who's looking for a job pay for a resume? And is this a repeating model? Once they get a job, they're likely not going to come back to you for another 5, 10 years until they want to update something. And they maybe won't even come back to you. They'll just make a few edits and that's done. Let's say in India, even if you go like, okay, let's consider a nice number would be, let's say 10,000 rupees is what they're willing to pay. That's it. That's your cap, right? That's kind of your cap. So this is scalable model only if you have volume, which means you have tons of people who are applying for a small, low ticket product. Let's put it that way. But especially if you're a solo person, if you're a freelancer, how much can you do? As a volume, you can't handle volume. You have to turn to becoming a business, and then that comes with its own thing, etc., etc. Maybe you're not ready for that. Whatever. It's not scalable in the short term. But something like, let's say, something that's really popular now is building out like sales funnels. If you can build out a sales funnel end to end for somebody, and even if you have 1 or 2 clients, and you can do that by yourself, by the way, if you can build that out, that is a potential of charging anywhere between like 3,000 to even 10,000 USD per client. That could take about 1 to 3 months to complete the project. there is potential to scale because there's one more person maybe you can hire and you can work with and you would still make good money. And this is something that's popular, something that people need. Any business needs that. E-com businesses are really trending right now. E-com is a big thing. How do you crack into that space? Personal branding is a big thing. How do you crack into that space? So that is why market research is important from both fronts. First of all, what is a viable business model? What are other people doing that they're successful at? You have to find somebody who's successful, and then you have to find many more people who are at least decently successful in your space that you want to get into before you can say, okay, this actually works, because there are people out there doing it. And then the second is, does your customer really need it? If you have the first response, then you're great. But second would be specifically in terms of exactly what you offer, your pricing. That has to come through talking to your customer. So something that one person charges like $1,000 for and some other person charges $5,000 for, it could be like the exact same service. But their audience is different. This audience cannot pay 5K. This audience is happy to afford to be able to pay 5K, right? Audience is different, your thought leadership is different, your credibility is different, your experience is different, even your own confidence in closing the deal size is different. So that would depend, but have conversations so you can understand what suits your market and the kind of people that you have access to, basically.
Lovely, Shreya. It was great chatting with you. Okay, and pick your mind onto things like, how did you make your move to Dubai and did things, right? So, thank you again. Lovely chatting with you.
Thank you, Trisha.